Hi. Alright, hello guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're brand new here, my name is Nikki and this is my book nook. Y'all, I'm gonna be quite honest, I've tried to film this intro at least 5 different times, but my next door neighbor, he's a gamer, and look, he's always over there having his fun, but I'm not aware of the gaming world. I don't know what's going on with that. I don't know if a new game just came out and I am just like ignorant to it. He has been off his rocker this week. He just has been screaming, going nuts. I mean, everybody has their hobbies. I sit here and rant about books all the time. I often wonder if he can hear that because I tend to get a little heated over here. So, you know, it's a give and take. I don't mind it, but he's really going off right now. So we'll see if we can get through this video. But yeah, guys, today we are gonna be talking about the books that I read in February. February was kind of a weird month for me. I don't know about y'all, but it felt like it was so short, but also so long. Also, I just read like a weird mixture of books. I read some books I absolutely loved. I read some that were really just okay, and I read some that I absolutely hated. It just was a strange month. That's the only way I know how to describe it. We've got quite a few things to talk about, so let's just get into it. So starting off strong, I read Brutal Obsession by S. Mastery. I made an entire video dedicated to this book because that's just how much I loved it. I am a big fan of hockey, a big fan of hockey romances, but I'm also a big fan of dark romances, bully romances. So when my friend Ashley told me about this book and how it combined all of those things, I just knew I had to read it. And you know what? She didn't steer me wrong. This was the best bully romance I have ever read. It follows this boy named Grayson and this girl named Violet. Long story short, Grayson is a super spoiled boy. He is the son of a senator. He's grown up super rich, super privileged. He's a major hockey star. And one night he ends up crossing paths with this girl named Violet. Some poor decisions are made. Things go wrong. Grayson ends up in jail, and it really affects his life. It affects his hockey career. And now, flashing forward, Grayson has had to transfer schools. He's on a new college hockey team, and it just so happens to be the same college that Violet is attending, and he does not realize that, so the two are crossing paths all over again, and Grayson is intent on getting his revenge on her because even though what happened very much was his fault, he's not gonna let it slide. He very much blames her for sort of ruining his life, even though he, in a lot of ways, ruined her life that night as well. There's a lot to it, but oh my god, guys, the tension in this story, the spice, like, it's dark, it's twisted, it's messed up. This isn't like your run-of-the-mill romance. If you're a fan of like Penelope Douglas, H.D. Carlton, you like the little bit darker stuff, the little more twisted, very spicy stuff, and you like hockey, like that's just a bonus. You're gonna love this one. Seriously, it needs more hype. The next book in the series comes out in, I think, April. It's like super soon, and I'm so excited for it. Seriously, so good. Okay, so next, I went through a pretty rough run of reading a couple books that are just super popular, super hyped, all over the place right now. It seems to be they are all anybody's talking about, and I decided to give them a try, and I just frankly felt bamboozled. This entire experience honestly led me to making this rant video that you can find on my channel a couple of videos back, where I just talk about books that are just super hyped, super popular, all over the place that I just personally didn't like. And you know, obviously if you love these books, I'm so happy for you, but I just didn't personally vibe with them. The first one was Flawless by Elsie Silver. I have been seeing Elsie Silver all over the place. It's like I had never even heard of her, and then a couple of months ago I saw her for the first time, and then all of a sudden she was all I was seeing on my feed. And so I decided to start this series because the third book was coming out. The third book was about a hockey player. I was really invested. Also, just the series in general is about like cowboys, country boys. I was very intrigued, but this first book just did absolutely nothing for me. I've made a couple of different rants about it now on YouTube, on TikTok, but basically the story follows this bull rider, this Canadian bull rider that is super famous, and he basically gets in trouble with one of his sponsors. He's sponsored by milk, and he publicly is caught saying that he doesn't like milk. And then after that, like, a paparazzi tries to confront him, and he punches the paparazzi in the face. So now he's in trouble because his sponsors are pulling out, and then also like his fans that are farmers are upset that he doesn't like milk. I don't really know, but his agent, like his PR agent, decides that the only possible solution to this is that he's going to send his daughter, that works for him, that is just fresh out of school. He's gonna send her to go and live with this bull rider so that she can keep him in check. You guys know I love a workplace romance. I love an enemies to lovers workplace romance. I love forced proximity. So like, I am never one to question that, but I just thought the concept of this story was like a little bit goofy. I'm like, why can she not just be his personal assistant at competitions? Like, I just don't see why she needs to go and live with him for 2 months. I just don't think that would ever happen. It just didn't really make a lot of sense to me. And it was very much like an enemies to lovers story, or at least that's what it was supposed to be. But it was one of those where they were enemies for like 5 pages, but it was just like insta lust, insta attraction. And I don't know, it took me like 30% to get into the story. And then once I just barely started to get into it, then the spice started happening and it icked me out. I don't know. You know how like when spice just doesn't do it for you? I don't know how to explain it. I have no explanation, but didn't do it for me. I just thought it was really cheesy, really predictable, just like not anything special. And I don't know, like I struggled to finish it. Seriously, by the end, I was just skimming through it because so many people are obsessed with this book. So I was like, surely I'm missing something, but it just was not for me. Like, I wouldn't recommend it at all. It didn't even, like, I don't know. I just think there's so many better workplace romances, enemies to lovers workplace romances, small town romances, cowboy romances. There's so many to choose from, and this one was just not for me. So that really was a struggle, really not something that I was happy about. And then from there, I tried to read Things We Hide from the Light by Lucy Score. I swear to God, this is the only book I'm seeing on my timeline, on Instagram, on TikTok. It is all anybody is reading. And look, I read Things We Never Got Over, right? I reviewed that book last year when it was super popular, popping off. That video has a ton of views, and honestly, I liked that book. I thought it was good. I thought it was a good small town, you know, grumpy sunshine sort of romance. I thought it had good found family to it. It definitely was like a little dramatic at times, and it was definitely like, I felt 100 pages longer than it needed to be. I wasn't obsessed with it, but I definitely liked it. I understood why people liked it. But this book, it just, I couldn't get into it, y'all, for the life of me. I was making myself read it. The very day it came out, I was like, I'm sitting down, I'm gonna read this book. Everybody's asking me about it. Everyone wants me to review it. You know, I wanna read it too. Like, I'm curious to see where it's gonna go. And I made myself sit there and read the first 100 pages without stopping, and I just like no interest in continuing. Nothing about it gripped me. It was so insta-lusty, so insta-lovey. There was just nothing gripping me. Nothing made me want to continue. I wasn't interested in the story. I wasn't interested in the characters. I didn't feel any chemistry. I felt like so much of it was trying to like go back to the characters from the first book, and there were just so many like quirky, fluffy moments that I just didn't feel like were adding to the story, and I was just so bored, and I felt like I was going to be forcing myself to read it, so I just stopped. And it's kind of driving me crazy seeing it everywhere because I'm like, what am I missing? Like, I just couldn't get into it, and I didn't want to force myself to read it, so I had to stop. Okay, and while we're on the subject of super hyped books that I did not have similar opinions about, you guys will probably remember if you've been watching me for a while, I read the fine print, God, I don't even know how long ago, well over a year now, and I feel like I've talked about it so much, so I don't want to harp on it anymore here, but I just didn't like it. That book was not for me. I really struggled through it. I ended up DNFing it at about 80%. I just did not like any of the characters. I just felt like it was really hard for me to connect with. It felt like I was reading a story about middle schoolers rather than adults. Like, it was just very difficult for me. So I had no intentions of continuing the series. I had no interest, but people love this series. Like, I constantly see it posted, and especially this past month because the last book in the series, Final Offer, came out. And I was getting such FOMO. Everyone was posting about it. They were posting all these teasers. It looked like it was really good, and I was like, I don't know what to do. So I finally just gave in, and I read the second book in the series, Terms and Conditions, and I am very happy to report it was a night and day difference. Like I said, the fine print was just not it for me. I didn't like the characters, but I felt like this was written by a completely different author. It felt like a completely different story. All the complaints that I had with the first book really were just washed away with this one. I really liked both of the characters in this one, particularly the girl. I had such issues connecting with the girl in the first story. I just found her to be so immature. I found her decisions to be so frustrating, where The girl in this story, I freaking loved her. I thought she was a queen. I thought she was such a badass. Like, I really, really liked her as a character. I liked her role in the story. And the guy in this story, you know, he was grumpy. He's a grumpy billionaire. We love to see it, but he had redeeming qualities and he really was caring at his core. And I just had like the hardest time liking the guy in the first story whatsoever. So yeah, in the story with this one, it was a marriage of convenience story. I just think it was more up my alley. I liked it a lot better. Still, it was not like one of my favorite books of all time. I just don't think that like I connect to this series in the way that other people do, but I am happy that it was way, way better. And I definitely do plan to read the third book in the series. I don't know if I'm gonna read it right away. I keep seeing people post about it, so I feel like I'm gonna have to read it soon, but I'm not like super excited to read it, but I also want to because again, I'm having FOMO. But yeah, Terms and Conditions was pretty good. I'm glad that I read it. It definitely was complete change from the first one. Okay, and then next I read Forever Interrupted by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This was the last Taylor Jenkins Reid book I had to read, you guys. I cannot believe I've read all of her books. Honestly, it makes me a little sad. I feel a little bit like I have a hole in my heart because I don't have any of her books left to read except for things that she's going to, you know, release in the future. I kind of loved always knowing that I had one of her books on deck, but now I've been through them all and I feel good about it. Like, I adore Taylor Jenkins Reid. I've read all of her books, like I've said. I don't even know how many it is, like probably venturing on 10. And I loved every single one. Like, there wasn't a single one that I disliked at all. And every single one, in one way or another, it just felt like it was written for me. I don't know how else to explain it. Taylor Jenkins Reid has this way of just like, she makes her stories so raw, so real. They all have just like these super deep messages to them. They just deal with like, you know, life issues that everybody goes through, and she just has such a way of like putting you in the main character's shoes and just tearing your heart out of your chest, ripping it apart, putting it back together. I adore her. She's literally my biggest inspiration, like especially when it comes to writing. Like, she just blows my mind, never ceases to amaze me, and this book was no different. I will say it was a very different vibe than her other books. Basically, to put it briefly, this story is about a woman that has just gotten married, and 1 week after her wedding, her husband gets in an accident and passes away. So you have this woman that, you know, thought she was gonna be with this man for the rest of her life. She had this image for her life, this image for her future, what she was gonna do, and every bit of it included this man, and she is like in the ultimate honeymoon stage of life, and in a matter of a second, it is all just like ripped out from under her. So it's a really sad story. It's a really rough story, and also like, it's Taylor Jenkins Reid, so you know she's gonna switch it up on you. We start with this accident happening like right away. In the first chapter, we know that this man is dead. And then from there, she jumps back to the past. We see this couple meet for the first time. We see their relationship just like take off, bloom, blossom. They just fall in love so quickly. They have such a whirlwind romance, and you know, that is kind of an issue actually with this whole thing because they are only together for a handful of months before they actually get married. It's super quick, it's super unexpected. They haven't even really told their family members about each other. So now, you know, this woman's husband has passed away and his family members are being notified, and she has to help plan this funeral with these family members that didn't even know she existed. Like, there's a lot to it. There's a lot of issues. There's a lot to go through. It's about grief. It's about friendship. It's about relationships. It's about your life and how like you never know what's gonna happen. You never know what's around the corner, and you just always have to be, you know, ready to just take it one day at a time. And it was such a good story. It was such a sad story. I cried straight up, bawled my eyes out at the very end of it especially, but at the same time it left me feeling really good and really reassured. Taylor Jenkins Reid always just knows how to remind me that it's all gonna work out in the end. It's all gonna work out exactly the way it's supposed to, and you know, you got this. At the end of the day, you'll figure it out. So I really loved it. I definitely recommend it, but have some tissues ready because it's a sad one. Okay, for what we're about to talk about next, I just need y'all to go ahead and get a pen and paper out right now, write this duet down, burn it in your brain. You might as well, because you're probably gonna hear me talk about it for the rest of the year, probably in like a million recommendation videos from here on out. I'm never gonna shut up about it. It is the River of Rain duet by C.E. Ricky. Oh my goodness, my friend Morgan recommended this duet to me. She's been telling me for months. She's like, Nikki, this is my favorite series, book, whatever of all time. Like, I'm obsessed with it. I need you to read it. You're gonna love it. I mean, the cover alone, you might as well know, if it has a tree on it, I'm gonna be obsessed with it. Like, a tree on the cover just does it for me every single time, and it didn't steer me wrong this time either. This is such a good duet, such an intense duet. There's so much involved in it. Basically, it is an enemies to lovers story about these two boys that are on this college football team together. They cannot stand each other. It's kind of like a bully situation even at times. They cannot get along, but they are also the stars of the team, and this entire sort of feud with them comes to a head, and their coach, their teammates, they're over it, and the coach is like, you know what, you two need to work your shit out. You're affecting the rest of the team. This is not gonna fly. So he decides to send these two boys to a cabin in the woods in the mountains where it gets snowed in, and they are gonna stay there for the entire 5 weeks of winter break. Just the two of them, and they are going to work it out. They're going to have to be forced to get along and find some common ground. And I think you can imagine two people being locked in a cabin that despise each other. Things are bound to go down, and you might find some blurred lines between hate and not so much hate. This is a very spicy story, a very kind of dark and twisted story at times too. These two boys have been through a lot in their lives. They go through a lot together, but also, oh my God, this duet has some of the most like heart-wrenching, beautiful quotes I have ever read. Like, these two boys care so much for each other, and they just like make my heart explode. River, so their names are River and Rain, which like so hot, literally so hot. I'm obsessed with it. I'm like, why did I not think of it first? River of Rain, follow the river and after rain falls. It's just, the vibes are immaculate. I'm obsessed with it, but I love them both. But River as a character is like one of my favorite characters ever. Like, he is just so hot. He's so like confident and sure of himself and just knows exactly what he wants, and he's smooth and he's like, you know, snarky, but he also is just like so caring, an absolute golden retriever with a heart of gold that just deserves the entire world. Like, I am just obsessed with him. I'm obsessed with this couple. I'm so happy that I read this duet, and I'm going to be talking about it from here on out. So if you're into romance, even if you're not and you're into, I really keep like comparing this to, I don't want to keep saying like Penelope Douglas, but Penelope Douglas is kind of like my standard for spicy books. Like, if I compare something to Penelope Douglas level spice, that means it's gonna be good. Also like Lucia Franco level spice, if you're into that, if you're into a little darkness, if you're into a little twistedness, you'll definitely like it. But also my girlies that I have turned on to Magnolia Parks. If you are into the drama, if you're into the back and forth, if you are into a couple that cares so much about each other and wants nothing more than to be together, but also simply can't stop breaking each other's hearts and fucking it all up, and just things keep getting in the way over and over and over. If you're into that, if you like a tumultuous relationship that takes forever for the two to like be happy, but it's all worth it in the end, like, you will love this story. And that's something that I love personally. Like, I like a slow burn. I like a lot of angst and tension. I like, you know, to have to work for it and wait for it. And that is definitely what happens in this duet. It is so good, guys. Like, seriously, just go read it. And it's on KU. If you don't want to own these beautiful babies in the physical copies, check it out. Okay, next I read Just Go With It by Madison Wright. I went into this story completely blind. It's a KU little rom-com, and I didn't know what it was about. And honestly, it was kind of fun to go into it blind. I feel like I don't tend to do that often. I usually at least like get some sort of synopsis or somebody tells me what it's about, but this one I was like, let me just try it out. I've been seeing it around, and it was cute. It was a friends to lovers story. It was actually a marriage of convenience story, which I did not exactly see coming in the beginning, but as I saw the pieces sort of like coming together, I started to like guess if that's what was gonna happen, and then it did happen, and I was like, oh my gosh. Basically, it is about this guy and this girl that you know, met in college and were friends. Their best friends actually were dating one another, so that's why they would end up spending a lot of time together. They grew close over the years, but the guy actually ended up moving away because he was actually a really famous social media star, so he kind of went off to live that LA lifestyle, and the two lost connection, and now the guy is moving back to Nashville, where they are from, and the girl has been going through some health struggles. She, I think she has fibromyalgia. I think that's what it was. It's something that, you know, is very expensive. Every single month she has to pay for medication and therapy and doctor's appointments, and she also just recently has lost her job, so she's really struggling. Also, their friends that are dating each other, they're about to get married, so the girl is now going to be out of a place to live because she's been sharing an apartment with that girl. So no job, no place to live, expensive medical bills. She's struggling, where this guy that she's been friends with all this time is not struggling at all. He's really rich, he's a star, so they basically, as a solution, decide that they are going to marry one another so that she can, you know, use his insurance, she can live with him. Also, he gets the benefit of sort of like getting girls off of his back, looking a little bit more serious, getting some more opportunities because he looks like he's like, you know, a classy man that has a wife. It definitely benefits the both of them. I really liked this story when it started out, and it was cute, like, don't get me wrong, but I just think for me, I love a marriage of convenience, and I really do love like a friends to strangers to lovers story, but I think the combination of the two kind of threw me off, just because I feel like what's so important with a marriage of convenience story is the fact that the two are kind of like enemies to begin with, right? Like, you want them to dislike each other, you want them to not be excited about getting married, you want them to be denying feelings, and I feel like with the friends to strangers to lovers, it's like, I don't know, these two characters, I'm like, it's so obvious you guys like each other. Like, what game are we playing here? You two literally got married, but we're still like pretending we don't like each other. Like, I just kind of like, I was really excited about it, and then once they got married, I just felt like it was like kind of slow, and I was also like, come on, you guys like each other. I don't know, it was definitely cute. Like, if you're into like a soft, fluffy, you know, rom-com that doesn't have a lot of spice, is really easy to read, it was definitely cute. But it's just like, I don't know, it wasn't like my favorite thing ever, but it was definitely cute. So if you want a little KU, cutesy little moment, check it out. And then lastly, because the series was coming out on Amazon Prime and it is currently my entire personality, I had to reread Daisy Jones and the Six. This is one of my favorite books of all time. It is also by Taylor Jenkins Reid, who we've already talked about today, so I will not go on the whole ramble about how much I love that woman again, but this book, when I read it, I don't even know how long ago it was now, definitely at least a year ago, it changed me, it destroyed me. I have never wanted to see a book turned into a movie or a TV show so badly. Like, obviously any book or any story that you read that you love, like, you would love to see it on screen, you would love to see it come to life, but there's something so different about this book. It is sort of a like documentary style story that follows this band that was the biggest band in the 70s, think Fleetwood Mac vibes, and the story basically tells how they got together, how they rose to fame, and how they ultimately broke apart. Like, they are famous for, you know, being incredible, being super popular, but what made them the most famous is the fact that they just broke up out of nowhere at the height of their career. So that's really what this story is about. It's told in like an interview sort of style, and oh my god, it just feels so real. Like, if you were to listen to the audiobook of this and somebody like didn't tell you that it was fake, you would 100% think that this is a real band. Like, the attention to detail with this was just so insane. Every single one of the characters felt so real, felt like someone that you could just connect with. And you know, like I said, you want to see any story that you love come to life, but with this, it's like, it was so different because it was a band, it was music. Like, when I finished this story for the first time, I wanted nothing more than to go home and be able to binge watch performances of this band, sit there and listen to their music and stare at the ceiling, but the music and the band didn't exist and there was no way to do that. So I literally cried. I cried for like 15 minutes after I finished this book the first time because I was just like, it's not real. And then ever since then, for well over a year now, I have been following the production of this show because Reese Witherspoon also loved the book and she was determined to make it into a show. and it is finally here. It is finally out. The first 3 episodes came out on Amazon Prime this past Friday, and now they're gonna continue to come out over the coming Fridays, and oh my god, you guys, I'm gonna make an entire video on my thoughts on the show, like once it finishes, once we get all the episodes, so I won't go too much into it, but it's so well done. It is so well done. I cried the first time I watched it because it just felt so real. They did it so well. Riley Keough as Daisy Jones could not be more perfect. She's Elvis's granddaughter, which just makes it iconic, but she's just perfect. She embodies Daisy, everything about her, the way that she looks, the way that she acts, like her charisma, her charm, just like the way that she is. I'm just like enamored by her. I think she killed this role, and Sam Claflin as Billy Dunn. The casting just could not be more perfect. Like, I feel like it's so rare that you are genuinely so happy with how an adaptation turns out. Usually you feel like some of the characters are off and some things are changed, obviously, but I just think they're doing it all right. I think they're doing such a good job, and I'm so happy that I reread this right before watching the show, because I knew what happened, but just getting to reread it, having it fresh in my mind just made me like so much more excited for the show, and now I'm just like truly in it, and I cannot wait. I'm like on the edge of my seat waiting to see the rest of the episodes and to see how it plays out and what they do with it. But yeah, guys, those are all of the books that I read in the month of February. March is gonna be a crazy month. If you guys don't follow me on Instagram, you might have missed that I announced my second novel is gonna be coming out at the end of April, April 30th, Something Rad. It is my enemies to lovers fake dating story set in the 80s. I'm so excited about it, but because it's coming out April 30th, that's really got to be my main focus, my main priority right now. So I just wanted to put that out there. If you guys see me posting a little less frequently, reading a little less books, like that is why. I know I don't need to explain myself to y'all because y'all are the greatest. You're so understanding, and like, of course, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to stop posting. I'm not going to stop reading, but you know, gotta prioritize some things, gotta really focus on that because that is my baby and I want it to be perfect. I want you guys to have it, and you will. So we should be in for a very interesting month. I'm excited to see what is to come. I would love to hear what you guys read in the month of February, what your favorite books were, if you read any of these books, what your thoughts were, just all the things. You guys know the drill. But yeah, that is it for me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you very soon. Bye.